I might be the only person in America who thinks that fraud is pervasive and it surrounds us. Well, maybe not the only one. Bruce deTorres, he's been on The Truth before. Welcome back, Bruce.
Great to be here, John. How are you?
I'm doing well. I don't know, Bruce. I'm kind of spun up this morning, frankly. I woke up at 3:30, went back to sleep, and then reawoke at 4:30. So I don't know. I may have gotten up on the wrong side of the bed. But there's a lot that's really making me grouchy right now. And we can start with the fraud that seems to be pervasive within our system, well, within our culture and our system of government, most disturbing. The people that are supposed to protect us from fraud seem to be the very ones that are participating, if not leading the fraud. And it's making me like that man in that movie. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Your thoughts?
You are justified to see things that way. And the more one digs into history, one finds it has ever been thus. And we need to have the courage to look at that severely, to transcend it and overcome it and balance that with life. What's life? Well, life is living things, procreating and blossoming and reproducing, and it goes on, no matter the foibles of mankind. And now we can tell ourselves we are adults who can handle the truth and comfort the young and the innocent who are devastated by discovering there is no Santa Claus, okay? And we are surrounded by such corruption. And those in power tend to abuse that power, and it can seem hopeless. And that's where we who can handle it have to have these kind of conversations. The vast majority of the good of which is, I'm not alone in seeing things this way. No, you're not. And together we can get through it and imagine solutions and actually have a good time.
Well, so I didn't understand the first words out of your mouth. Did you say it's always been this way, or that did I misunderstand you? And maybe you said it's not never been this way. I don't know.
It has always been this way.
Always. So have we been ignorant to that fact?
No, if it comes as a shock, it's because, personally speaking, my childhood was in the 60s and 70s.
Me too.
And there was enough of the idealism back then, even in school. On the front of every classroom, there was George Washington, the American flag, and Abraham Lincoln. So I ingested and loved the ideals of the American founding, and for a number of years, really indulged the idea that we're the good guys and everything's gonna work out okay. But then, upon reflection, and you grow up and you realize, oh no, there's a great subterfuge being inflicted on us. Things are this corrupt. We're at a stage right now where every day I think we have to expect catastrophic collapses, either organically because corrupt, rotten, brittle things collapse, or also manufactured crises can be inflicted on us to control us, terrify us, and let the inflictors greatly profit from it in literal false flag attacks, where we are attacked by the people who are supposed to protect us, and it's blamed on an external enemy to justify going to war and all these horrible things. Did that make sense to your question, John?
Well, it does. It seems like a little bit of a roundabout answer. I shared with you before we came on. I'm from the Midwest. I'm pretty direct and to the point, but that's okay. You wrote a book, God, School, 9/11, and JFK. Now, I don't know what inferences to draw from that. Tell us a little bit about the book and where you're coming from.
Well, sure. The subtitle says, the lies that are killing us and the truth that sets us free. So what I show in the book are the official stories of many, many things to be lies. Mm-hmm. And the truth that sets us, first of all, knowing who's really hurting you is a great help. That sets us free so that we don't accept, quote unquote, protection by the forces and people who actually inflicted the harm and then blamed another. So we're not played for fools and suckers at that level. And then there's a greater truth that sets us free, which is existential and it's spiritual. It's the nature of reality. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning, that life is living, and it's, I say it's eternal. And with the right intentions of being part of solutions and helping and loving each other, we can overcome anything and we can create whatever we want.
Well, I would be very interested to know who you think is the boogeyman here, because I've been looking. I've been trying. I can't find the curtain, let alone who's behind it.
Wow, that is a very direct and accurate portrayal of much of modern life. We are confused intentionally. We are fire hosed. Every version of every event, we don't. The intention is to keep us confused, so we don't know what to believe. The evildoers or the perpetrators are the richest of the rich. These are old families. These are old institutions, and especially here in America, we are betrayed and hurt and controlled and abused by those forces which, for all intents and purposes, have captured our government, our media, our health institutions, the pharmaceutical companies, the giant corporations that really provide everything that we need and are also doing it for maximum profit, which is equal to maximum injury to us. It's comprehensive. The people we see on the stage, presidents, politicians, senators, congressmen, are colluding with that mostly. A lot of them are aware of this and are trying to speak the truth and reveal things and do well for us. If they really start to help us and reveal a lot of truth, they're destroyed, they're demonized, they're driven from office, or they're driven off the road.
Who would you be referring to?
Well, you could look at, I was no particular fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene, but the way that she was bullied out of office is a very current example.
You and I have a lot in common, Bruce. I know Marjorie Taylor Greene. I've known her for 8 years, maybe 9. I sat with her at Mar-a-Lago in 1917, maybe 18.
2017 or 18.
Yeah, what did I say?
You said 1917.
Well, that's because I'm old. That's my frame of reference.
You're not that old.
2017 or 2018, and she was feisty then. It was just her and I and about 4 other people. We were dialing for dollars for President Trump's re-election campaign that had just been kicked off for 2020, and she was not a warm or empathetic individual, and I frankly, my first instinct was I don't like her, and my second instinct was you need to get to know her better. So I've gotten to know her better and confirmed that my first instinct was absolutely correct. It is, when I was a kid, I grew up in the church. I was there most days of the week and the majority of the hours in the week. I was there Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday night, Sunday morning, all day until noon, then lunch after church at the church. And then I would come back for MYF on Sunday night. And then I was back on Wednesday nights for the Wednesday night supper with my folks. So I spent a lot of time in the church. And the youth leader there was one of my absolute heroes in life, because I was a very gangly, awkward, thin, uncoordinated nerd, and I got my share of abuse. He was always so nice to me and always so encouraging to me. And so I was kind of his right hand. I filled up the Coca-Cola machine with drinks. I swept the floor and mopped the back room. And and his wife worked there as well. She taught pottery. She made ceramics. Just a wonderful, fine couple who made an indelible impression on me. And I aspire to be as good a person as those two people were. Anyway, my point is he was a good study of human nature. And I had a friend named Ken who worked there with me. There were 8 or 10 of us that worked at the youth center. And Ken was a very smart, brilliant guy, even at a young age, and very full of himself. And so Mr. Ayers used to say to Ken, you're a great guy, but you got a disease. And Ken would look at him and say, what do you mean, Mr. Ayers? And he said, well, you've got this disease. It's called I-itis. And it stuck with me. It really made an impression on me. I never wanted to have I-itis because there's not a cure for it. The cure is to live life, and it'll beat the hell out of you until you accomplish the art of achieving and acquiring humility. I tell my kids all the time, life will humble you. It's better just to be humble. It's a lot easier, I can promise you. So that was a long explanation just to say that Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I tried to like, I do admire her values, but as a person, she's just unlikable if you know her on any kind of a personal level. I followed Ben Franklin's advice. He said, I don't like that guy. I need to get to know him better. And so I tried to get to know her better. And the more I learned, the more I confirmed my first impression. She's just not a nice person.
But you know what I take
from that? She has got the right principles. She's got the right guiding light.
Yeah, the I-itis and her success in her, in politics is typical or for success in a hierarchy. And one could argue that through school and into politics, one with a severe case of I-itis can rise to a top by elbowing others out of the way. But at the end of the day, who loves you? Who thinks you're a nice, wonderful person? And those are profound questions for every individual.
Well, that's a conversation I'd love to have with you because I wrestle with that in my daily life all the time. Is it self before others, or is it others before self? And then you have to stop and ask the question, what's the win? If you put yourself before others and you win, what have you won? A legion of enemies. I'm not sure that that's the right goal. Anyway, we're straying far afield, but I'm liking it. I'm enjoying it, Bruce. Thank you for indulging me. I've drawn this crude map. Anthony, where do you want to display it? Where can I show it?
That's fine.
Right here?
Yeah.
Now, I am not an artist. I flunked math. But I'm just thinking about,
there you go.
That is my depiction. I just wrote this out while you were talking.
Bring that more center, please, because half of it's off the page.
That is my crude depiction of the United States.
Okay. All right.
That is my depiction of the United States. I'm down here where my index finger is.
I understand. Sure, special interest,
so
intelligence. Yeah.
I look at you. We were trying to decide who is the boogeyman.
Right.
Who is after us? And so it's easy to identify China, Iran, Russia. I put dotted lines between Canada and Mexico. I don't think they're really after us. I think they're just greedy and they want to leech off of us as much as they can. It would be better if, and that's what, here's the thing. It just hit me with a ton of bricks. President Trump said this morning, the EU will not assist in the fight that we're in with Iran. So we've got these forces that are coming at us from outside of our country. And it's very hard to distinguish whether the things that are happening to us that are bad, like you alluded to, it's always a foreign entity. And is it subterfuge to cover up who the real villain is? So I drew in this inside the country. I'm going to do a better job of this because it's brilliant. There goes my humility. It is absolutely a brilliant depiction of what we're talking about. Special interest, intelligence, law enforcement. You can put minorities on that page, like the Somalians in Minnesota and California, that are the primary sponsors of fraud, so we're led to believe. And, I've just gotten to the point where I see all this stuff. I'm not ignorant about it. And it just gets you to a point that I question everything. This guy just quit the National Intelligence Organization saying that Iran was not the threat that we have been told that it is.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here saying, but of course it is. Of course the Ayatollah Khomeini took 54 U.S. hostages and kept them for over 2 years. Of course they are evil. And then you go back and you dig a little further and you realize that it was not out of a quest for power or leveraging. It was revenge. It was a settling of the score. So I don't know. Can you sort it out, Bruce? I'm getting myself really confused.
Well, kudos to care about all these things, John, and that's how we'll, together, humanity, we can grow up towards some understanding by comparing notes about what do you know, what do you know, what do you know, what do you think, what have you heard, and that's how it's done. And your map is valuable because to know ourselves and our own intentions and reality is the first step. Okay, so you've got law enforcement, you've got intelligence and things like that. I would say that 90% of our challenge is to understand internally and domestically, who's working for life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness here and who is not. And before I would list any foreign country as our enemy or a threat, let's pin that and say we can look at that. The sad reality is the United States government has barely worked for us since at least World War II. The presidency of John F. Kennedy was an anomaly. That was a short but blazing opportunity and great light that appeared. The authenticity of President Kennedy and how he wanted to use the government to empower, to unleash freedom, not only in America, so that we could prosper, but also around the world and steer us toward a planet of peace, has been gone with the wind since 1963. And yes, question everything.
I happen to agree with you.
As do so many observers and folks who were alive through that, and they've seen what the country has been since him, right?
I call it the day America lost its innocence. And I truly do believe that. The only hesitation I have is that for me, that's kind of where life really began in terms of understanding what the world is really like. I was 10 years old. I had a mostly idyllic childhood. I had two parents that absolutely loved me and were good parents. They did not spare the rod.
Yeah, but they wanted to wake you up.
If I stepped out of line, I got whacked. Well, not bad, but I mean.
Well, enough to make you question why'd that happen, and to hear the lesson they're trying to.
Enough to make me respect my parents' rules and the limits that they set. Yeah. And most of them were for my safety. So, but that day, my listeners are tired of hearing it, but I was home from school with the flu. I'd been home for 3 days. My fever broke. I woke up at noon. I consciously thought to myself at 10 years old, if you don't get your butt out of bed, you're never going to feel better. So I got up, got dressed, walked down the stairs to the family TV, and my mom was sitting there, as I knew she would be, because she watched As the World Turns every day at 1 o'clock. And as I pitter-pattered down the stairs, she said, "John, come and sit next to me." And I thought, okay, Mom's missed me while I've been in bed with the flu. But there was something in her voice that was foreboding, and I sat next to her. I said, "Mom, is everything okay?" She said, "No, son, the president has been shot." To this day, I remember the emotion, the state of utter confusion that I felt, not being able to assimilate what those words meant. I didn't know anything about murder, life and death. I mean, I at that point, I had lost my grandfather, but that was the only person that I had lost in life that was close to me. And life and death was not a subject that I pondered or was, but it was a shocking cold reality that someone in the most despicable manner possible, with ruthlessness and complete abandonment for the dominoes that it put in place, the impact that it had, not only on the deceased and his wife sitting next to him. So for 64 years, 63, 62, 63, I've studied JFK's assassination. And I pondered everything.
Have you found the work of Dr. David Mantik?
I have not.
Well, briefly, he has studied the evidence in the National Archives more than anybody. And for decades, he's been showing, by analyzing the X-ray films there, how they've been altered. And he has long made an ironclad case that not only was Kennedy hit in the throat, hit in the back, that's 2 shots.
Yeah.
He was hit simultaneously in the head by 3 bullets. So he was in a crossfire.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind.
Right. And the shooters were put into position by the same types of forces that that staged the Gulf of Tonkin to justify the Vietnam War, that staged 9/11 and blamed Muslims. That was an inside job. And it's the same horrible forces that inflicted the fraud of COVID-19 on us and filled many bodies with a bioweapon called a vaccine. Talk about being humble. In the face of these discoveries, John, one must completely question every word that comes from corporate media, corporate politicians, and get right with your maker and get right with your goals and intentions, and the need to be an adult who can look at the truth, talk about the truth, and talk about what we want, which is peace and love and prosperity, and to just see how the United States government does not work for us, and only we could turn that around.
Everything you just said, I agree with. Intellectually, 99.999, just take it all the way out to the extreme, convinced that our own government killed John Kennedy. And it was for power, and it was for greed, and it was also out of covering his own butt. In the case of Lyndon Baines Johnson, it was survival for him. It was also power. I've read a lot. I will go find David Mantik, I assure you. But Roger Stone, David Talbot, Douglas, all those books come to the same conclusion, and the evidence is overwhelming. I have been less willing to go down the rabbit hole on 9/11 until I've just stumbled on a YouTube video with former Congressman Kirk Weldon, who forced me to look at Building 7 and its implosion. And so now I've gotten a new obsession, and I've been looking at that. I really consciously don't want to look at 9/11 because I have an inkling of where it's going to lead me, and I don't know that I have the ability to live with that knowledge. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
To live with the knowledge that 3,500 people may have lost their lives based because of action that our own government was somehow complicit in? I don't know that I can stomach it. I don't know that I have the constitution or the ability to receive the news. And I think that a lot of people probably on some level, I've never really articulated it that way until now, but I think that that's probably why a lot of people stay in denial, because it's just too damn painful to look at the reality. But I want to ask you,
Yep.
the other thing I have kind of suspected but refused to look at is COVID. Was it intentional? Was it unleashed on us?
I'm convinced. I was able to write a chapter called COVID-19 during 2020, the first year of COVID, before my book came out the following spring. And I've continued to look at it and all these things. And the COVID-19 project and what they did with the vaccines, John, is the biggest and most horrendous crime against humanity that I can contemplate with all the history that I know, going back to whatever I know of antiquity and beyond. And there's so much in antiquity that we don't know. There are clues as to how advanced civilizations used to exist before the Egyptians, before the Babylonians. But to just with what's on human record, the Holocaust of harm, injury, death, and ongoing, probably irreversible damage to human reproduction, the sicknesses and the illnesses and the deaths continue to blossom from those who got the injections. And remnants of the shots are found in the placentas, if not the newborns of adults who got the shots 3, 4, 5 years ago. And it's part of an unbelievably evil, insane agenda by the powers that be that did these type of things, that are hand in hand with the transhumanism, the merging with machines, the development of AI. They're very sick hell on earth that they're inflicting, because psychologically, and I'll try and be very direct and brief with this, because they hate life, they can't accept that. It's the psychological process of projection. So they want to die. You can't admit that to yourself consciously. So it's easy for them, quote unquote, to think others are the enemy. They're the ones who are threatening me. So I'm going to kill them or destroy them. And it's part of that sick hierarchical competitive too. If I'm on top, you can't hurt me. I'm going to crush you. So that's the hellscape of the minds of the World Economic Forum and the Peter Thiels and the Yuval Hararis and the Klaus Schwabs and the George Soroses and all their disgusting minions, like the Clintons and the Bushes, who facilitate this for only evil purposes. I see a new picture.
No, I just amended it as you were speaking, and I inserted globalist, but they're both inside the borders and outside the borders.
Appropriately so.
I feel we are under attack from every direction, and I find myself being naive and wishful. In the words of Rodney King, can't we all just get along? I mean, could we call a world meeting of leaders and say, okay, Russia, this is your part of the world. China, this is your part of the world. U.S., this is our part of the world. All nuclear weapons are going to be disposed of today. You live as you want to live. You live as you want to live, and allow us to live as we want to live. We're not going to meddle inside your country. You're not going to meddle in ours. Why can't the world be balanced that way?
Because enough of us don't want that, but it's our job or opportunity to talk about those kind of things. By the way, that's a very accurate description of the world envisioned by the proponents of the American system of economics, which was formulated by Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, developed by Henry Clay, Henry C. Carey, Abraham Lincoln, William McKinley, FDR, and John F. Kennedy. Alexander Hamilton's American system of economics, whereby governments implement policies that allow the people to develop the natural resources and their own domestic economies, their own domestic manufacturing and trade, so they can be strong and defend themselves against any other country, they can't be attacked and be conquered by an empire. And the best proponents of that, John, push that out to Germany and Japan in the 1800s and push that out to Russia in the 1800s. And they were our allies. And Britain primarily drove the destruction of those countries in order to perpetuate its system of empire, the thing we rebelled against in the American Revolution, which is, I'm bigger and stronger than you. I'm just going to sit on your country, crush you, extract your natural resources, prevent you from developing manufacturing with the latest science and technology. But the alternative is what you just described. When every country develops its own resources for its own wealth and empowerment, they'll largely be self-sufficient, and then trade with the world will be kind of a bonus. But no country will be strong enough to conquer another. One of the amazing discoveries about John F. Kennedy's presidency, which people can find in my book, and I highly recommend it, read all about it at brucedetorres.com, is that in the last year of his life, 1963, he was not only working for controlling nuclear weapons, he was talking about general and complete disarmament. He was talking about the world you just described.
And you know who wanted to be his partner in that?
Khrushchev.
Nikita Khrushchev, the worst person on earth if you listen to our media and our own government. But Kennedy and Khrushchev actually, and I'm not telling you, you know it, they developed a relationship. And they actually liked one another, and they both had the goal of nuclear disarmament. And a lot of people speculate that that's what got Kennedy killed, because they were starting to make progress towards it.
And these are ideals worth nurturing. These are things worth espousing and talking about. And we have to believe good things will happen when enough people know and enough people want these things. And we have to generate this kind of hope for the succeeding generations. You know, when you were talking about not wanting to look at 9/11, and it was visceral, the effect that it was going to have on you, John, and it does have on you, I pictured the spirit of your father next to you with his hand on your back saying, it sucks, but we have to tell ourselves we can handle the truth.
100%. And that is sage advice to leave our audience with. Thank you so much, Bruce. God, School, 9/11, and JFK. You can find it at brucedetorres.com. And it has just been a pleasure to have you back on. And if you would be willing, I'm going to have you back on more often. I'd forgotten just how much I enjoyed your company from our last visit.
It'd be a privilege and an honor. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And that is the truth. I'm John Gordon.